Any books in that you've read that's actually helped you throughout the last 7 years of your investment, that's pulled you through some of those winter times?
Well, I keep reading regularly, but some of the books that stood out for me especially in relation to investing is obviously the all-time classic Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you haven't read it, you must read it immediately. Then The Richest Man in Babylon, that one's quite good. Another relevant one is which I've recently read is Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Hang on, Pranjal. You read any of those, Jacob?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, I've bought. I'm yet to read it.
Pranjal, if you could recommend a book to young guys like Jacob over there, or any other listeners watching, which book would that be? Just the one.
Yep, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's the one.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
All right, I'll get on that.
Yep. And surprisingly, every time I read it after an interval of 3 to 4 years, actually new meanings start emerging out of the same chapters. So that's quite a meaningful book and not very difficult to read and understand.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy goes through his life story. He tells about how his rich dad and like his uncle, he guided him through entirely different path compared to his dad, who was employee and kept telling him to study hard, get good grades, get a job and retire. So for youngsters, I think that's the most thought-provoking book that challenges everything that you have believed so far, especially the common narrative of studying hard and getting good grades and getting a job. That notion is quite outdated. Yes, job can give you income, but it might never help you thrive financially. That's the idea. Richest Man in Babylon is more sort of old classic that is there, but one should read it. The recent one that I'm suggesting is Psychology of Money. This is for someone who has already started investing, like some experienced people well into their mid-30s might have invested in shares or things like that. Unlike other books on economy and money, this book is very easy to grasp, very easy to digest. He talks in very day-to-day examples and something that will get the cobwebs out of your head, especially about things about money and how humans behave in the way they behave with respect to money and investing. So it's very good at putting a spotlight on your own blind spots as to why you as a person or as an investor would have done certain thing and how to break through from that script or the mold. So related to money, these 3 books I believe are absolutely essential. If you're considering about moving from employee to being self-employed or a business owner, there's another one by Robert Kiyosaki and his team, which is called Cashflow Quadrant. So up until now, all throughout our school age, we have been told that this is the purpose of your being. You study, you get good grades and get a job. But this book explains you that there are 3 other ways of making money and growing your wealth, which is a self-employed person, a businessman, and an investor. And the book talks about the pros and cons of all these quadrants. So it opens up your horizon to a new world of possibilities. You realize that there are other ways to make money and become wealthier. So that's quite good as well. So I think these 4 should be a pretty good start. And there's plenty of other books. And we can obviously put the link in the show notes for these books and stuff. Apart from that, currently I just finished reading Sapiens, one of the very famous best-selling books. This guy is an anthropologist and historian. He talks about everything that happened to human race since we were like hunter-gatherers, and how language evolved and how social structures evolved, and how religion played a role and how politics and money and everything. It's a very fascinating book into and a very easy to understand summary of human history. So that's been very empowering to read. So if any of you are into reading and like to find out how humans end up where we are right now, Sapiens is the book to read. Yeah.
But I think all good books, I haven't read all of them, but is there any particular book or anything along those ones that you've read that has, I guess, embedded in your mind on what's actually helped you throughout the last 7 years? Like any lessons in those? And do you remember anything?
Yeah, there's plenty of lessons. Even before we did start investing, we were well aware of that Rich Dad Poor Dad teachings. And ever since I read that book for the first time, that question has always remained with me. Okay, what else is there beyond just the job?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the quest begins from there. So first of all, you would have to start questioning your current reality, and that's when you may get the answers, you may not get the answers, but the question remains with you. Another one that has definitely helped me is Millionaire Mindset by T. Harv Eker. And this guy usually used to run workshops, like 4-day workshops, where he would talk about your relationship with money and how you come to think about money the way you do. And that's where he asked questions like, what were the discussions about money when you were growing up? What sort of discussions did you hear? Did you see a lot of fight happening? Did you see a lot of empowered discussions, so on and so forth? And that particular book has stayed with me because that book encouraged me to ask about how I came to think about money the way I did back then, even long before I started investing. And it led to a lot of introspection and looking back at my childhood and what sort of beliefs did we just inherited from our parents and our surrounding. And then he talks about other things like, okay, how do you change this up? How do you release the negative energy associated with the concept of money? How do you be comfortable with the concept of wanting to be rich or wanting to provide for your family? Then he gives some basic usable formulas like, have your separate jars, if you will. And this concept of jars was introduced by this guy long before the Barefoot Investor author introduced it to Australia. So quite empowering in that regard, especially for people who are just getting started. So. Okay.